I actually wrote the dissent on the report that was sent to Congress. TPP is bad in a number of ways, and if you could elaborate on how bad that is, not just for agriculture,
right,
but for our economy.
Okay, thank you very much. I have believed ever since I've been elected to Congress, I was elected in 1990, that our trade agreements, NAFTA, CAFTA, PNTR with China, and now the TPP, that primarily these trade agreements have been written by big money interests, corporate America, agribusiness, pharmaceutical industry, okay? And I voted against all of them, and I'm helping to lead the effort against the TPP. Specifically, what about the TPP? Number one, American workers in the TPP are being asked to compete against people in Vietnam who make 56 cents an hour minimum wage, 56 cents an hour. I was in Vietnam. People are very, very hardworking. I like the people of Vietnam, so I'm not anti-Vietnamese. But I do believe that it is unfair to American workers to have to compete. You know, when Donald Trump talks about, you know, keeping wages low in America, what he is talking about is that if we don't have low wages here, all the jobs are going to go to Vietnam. Well, I think there is another solution to that problem. I don't think we should be engaging in a trade agreement which forces American workers to compete against people who are making pennies an hour. This trade policy forces our workers to compete against Malaysia, who treat many of their migrant workers almost as indentured servants with no rights at all. All right. So from a worker point of view, companies should not be able to leave America and go to low-wage countries and throw out people out on the street. Issue number two, just one more issue, two more issues. Second issue is you have the pharmaceutical industry, very, very powerful. Their goal today and always is to make sure that you pay the highest prices in the world, and people all over the world pay very high prices. That is their goal, and that's why 3 companies make $45 billion in profits last year. What they have fought for in the TPP is a variety of approaches which maintains the intellectual property of their drugs as long as possible, so that poor countries cannot convert those drugs into generics, and people who are desperately poor will have to pay outrageously high prices for drugs. Third issue has to do with the relationship between government and corporate powers. Give you one example. There are countries around the world that are working very hard. It's called invest-the-state process. Are you familiar with that? And here's what that is about. You have a country, Uruguay actually is the country. Interesting, sorry, Uruguay, a tiny little country. Turns out that the president of their country was an oncologist, very concerned about cancer, worked very hard to figure out how he could prevent children in his country from smoking. So they put labels, big labels on cigarettes, warning kids, doing everything that they could to prevent children from smoking. You know what? I think that's a pretty good idea. They were sued, Uruguay was sued and taken to a third-party court because they were threatening the future profits of Philip Morris. How's that? Philip Morris said, hey, we want the freedom to be able to make children sick and get cancer and emphysema, and that's how we make our money. How dare you limit our profits by selling cigarettes to children? And they're now in a third-party tribunal hearing this case. Uruguay does not have the power to make decisions for their own public health. That type of provision remains in the TPP. So if the state of Iowa, state of Vermont, wants to stand up for environmental reasons or health reasons, we could be sued by a corporation and taken to a third-party tribunal because we're ruining or inhibiting the profits of some private corporations.